All right, welcome everyone to the Tellor community call. December 1st already, 2020. Um, Exciting times, I think. Are we actually at a Bitcoin all-time high as of yet? Anyone know if we actually hit it? I don't. We're flirting. It's really, really close. I think we may have, we're just waiting for that 20,000 mark, or we'll just miss it and go back down and have to explain, have to talk about this missed opportunity for the next 2 years. Um, Either way, it's super exciting. Teller's obviously doing really well, and kind of the whole space in general. It's sort of euphoric whenever things really, whenever everything's kind of clicking for a lot of people in the space. But yeah, so we have a good call. We have quite a few questions. Should lead to some good discussion. So kind of feel free to chime in, anybody. Um, but kind of the first thing on some events. So we had JG actually gave a phenomenal talk last week at the Encode Club Hackathon. I Ryan, Mike's not here, so you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Encode Club Hackathon that runs for like the rest of the month or another month. And then we're getting a lot of people. I mean, JG had like 100 people watching his how to build on Tellor. It was really cool. And then we also, Ryan, do you know anything about the Gitcoin hackathon? Or I think you're muted.
Sorry, just starting here. Yeah, so that's going to start on tomorrow, and that'll be running through the 17th.
Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of coinciding with the Gitcoin grants kickoff, which also starts tomorrow, and it's going to be fun. We've done Gitcoin hackathons in the past. We always get a lot of good contributors. Tellor actually started posting issues on Gitcoin. So if you saw, we posted some of the minor tasks, and we're just starting to use Gitcoin. There's a lot of really good developers there, and we want to make sure that other people are contributing to the code source, so that way it's not just JG, Crossy, and I, or Brenda and I, like in the past, that are doing it. The more eyes you have on it, and the more kind of contributors you have, just the better it's going to be, and the better our documentation has to be. And since ultimately we want people using it and building on it, Gitcoin seems to be kind of a no-brainer, and we found a lot of really good talent there. So if you're a developer and you want to get paid for some small tasks, take a look at some Tellor stuff on Gitcoin, or go do the hackathon. You can earn some bounties there as well. But kind of the big thing I want to talk to you guys about today. So for those following the Discord, there's some heated, or not necessarily heated, but just it's a really good discussion going on about some of the difficulties that are currently going on with mining. So the current issue, if you look at it, the difficulty is basically nil, roughly, give or take nothing. It's very, very low, and it's not sort of representative of the hash power that's in the system. So what goes on is we have 5 mining slots each block. Anybody can submit for slots 1. You have to solve the proof of work challenge, and then you can submit the solution. Slots 1 through 4 are relatively cheap to submit the solution, and then whenever you do slot 5, it's a more expensive transaction. But slot 5 is the really important one, because it actually determines the reward amount for all 5 slots. So slot 5, what happens is people, or the miners, will calculate, okay, it's going to cost me, say, $5 in gas to submit for slot 5. They'll wait until the reward is greater than $5 in order to submit, so it's profitable. Because if you remember with the V2.5 switch, the way that the Tellor rewards work is, in the time since last block, every second that goes by, the reward goes up. So if they're really fast blocks, the rewards for those are really low. But if they're really long blocks, then the rewards are actually, then the rewards are also going to be higher. It's a really cool design that we really like, but there's some bugs that are sort of popping up with it. Namely, what's going on now is you have a handful of miners. It's all anonymous, so we don't know how many. Um, they've sort of optimized slots 1 through 4, so they will submit almost instantly for the first 4 slots. Like as soon as there's a new challenge, the solution's in. And this is done, they're probably listening to the mempool, or very close on even listening for like unconfirmed transactions on Ethereum, and they're starting to solve the solution. The solution is even very, very low to begin with, which they can solve. So it's basically a gas race on this thing. And it's similar to like the miner extractable value problem in Ethereum. They're just sort of gaming the system. But then what comes in is, so the first 4 are gone, and then almost instantly, but we have 5-minute block times. So it's usually not profitable to submit for that 5th slot for around 5 minutes sometimes, so usually even over 5 minutes before it's profitable. So it just sits, and the difficulty is super low. People can solve for the challenge, but there's no point in submitting it because the reward's not high enough to pay for it. So it's not how we intended the system to work. What we wanted to do is we want the actual proof of work piece to take the full amount of time that it should, and then for people to be submitting. So the current proposed solution that we're working on, it's actually just going to base the difficulty adjustment is going to be on slots 1 through 4. And then, so if slots 1 through 4 are solved really, really quickly, the difficulty will increase. It won't matter if the 5th block takes a long time. The 5th block, however, anybody can submit. So we're going to be removing the difficulty calculation piece for the 5th block. This is similar to, in the past, it was if it had been 15 minutes, I mean, that piece is still staying there, but we already do that for if it's over 15 minutes, the difficulty drops down to 1, so anybody can solve it. Now we're just doing also, if it's the 5th block, the difficulty will also drop down to 1. That way we're sort of owning the entire, this is a gas. This is just waiting for the gas calculations. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the crux of it. We'll also be making some small code adjustments. So you'll have to let us know. Okay, so any questions on that? JG, was that a decent explanation? I think.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so I think some of the other changes that we'll be making. So there's some cleanup in the code that we're going to be doing. We found a few pieces. There's like a spelling error or 2, and then some getters that we're probably going to be adding. So we're going to be adding that also into this upgrade. But realistically, on the timeline for this fix, we'll probably be putting it together over the next week or 2. It's a relatively quick fix. And then we'll be testing it for 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll put it up to another week-long vote. So you guys will have another opportunity to show how loyal you are and vote. And maybe we'll make some incentives or something like that to help push this thing through again. But it should be another great. I don't think it's going to be contentious. I mean, the only person who I think might not like it would be that guy, whoever the person is that's getting the slots 1 through 4. But hopefully they sort of play along with this as well. But we're also very open if there are any other changes that people want to throw in there or want to talk about making. Definitely let us know. So, all right. So now all right. Anything else before we kind of move into questions? No. Okay. So we got 14 questions. So thanks everyone for asking questions. It's always really good. First question. Okay, so what is your plan for 2021? Mainly for expanding the list of big exchanges. This is, you guys are like insatiable, I would say, as far as big exchanges go. We get Binance, and I think it was literally that day everyone's asking for Coinbase. Or Binance US or something like that. we're talking with them. It's definitely not on. I don't think there's a lack of ability to buy Tellor. If you want Tellor, I think it's relatively easy to buy Tellor. Um, so that's usually what we want. We want users and people who are interested to have a way to buy it. And if you honestly don't have a way to buy it, like just reach out to me and I'll sell you some. Um, it shouldn't be an issue. All right, and here's one we can ask kind of everyone here on the team. What does each of your daily schedules look like? Um, so I can kind of go first. Um, so so usually I go into the office every other day. Um, Tuesdays I'm usually at home, but sometimes I'll be in the office. You'll see the different background. Um, we usually do team calls in the morning, and then I'll do basically whatever coding, writing, business development task or calls with other teams need to be done for the rest of the day. It's really just, I feel like I don't have as much. I know earlier on it was a lot of whenever we were more in coding land, you would spend a lot of the time coding, but now it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of talking with people, a lot of new projects, things like that, answering stuff for people to actually have information about Teller because as much as much as our time, at least I feel like I can do a lot of good coding and building new cool things. Like we ultimately need people to use us, which comes as kind of the first priority for me. Um, so, Ryan, what does your daily schedule look like? You're up on my screen. Anything?
Yeah, so basically starts out just meeting with Mike, talking about strategy for the day and going over any priorities that we need to make sure, like Gitcoin, for example. The Gitcoin Hackathon starts tomorrow. Um, on top of that, we're strategizing with social media. Um, I'm helping Mike write Medium articles, posting on Blockfolio and Twitter. And then outside of that, it's gathering my list of leads, using different resources, Reddit, Twitter, and then on top of that, it's scheduling calls, making sure that we get all the right people on the calls with the potential users.
Have you had any people be mean to you when you reached out to them?
Nope,
No,
no,
everyone's responsive.
responsive, no, but no deliberate rudeness yet.
Cool. Yeah. No, I mean it's cool because like I feel like a lot of people actually know about Teller now. So there's like a lot of different experiences whenever you reach out to different projects and like
Right,
sometimes when people don't hear about you and they feel like you're just another shitcoin project or something.
right.
It's they tell you to go away really harshly or something.
No, yeah, it's
No.
it's it's mainly been just darkness, no response.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I feel like everybody's busy and it's especially once we hit all-time highs, it doesn't matter. Or
Right.
we win, we beat the game. So anybody else want to go? If you want to tell your schedules.
It's my turn. My schedule starts off similar to Nick's, except I don't go to the office as often. I used to go once a week on Wednesdays. So in the morning, we always have, a founders meeting, and then we have a dev meeting. And then I try to do a lot of business admin things and then check on some wallets, make sure that they're funded, check on some automated processes, make sure that they run, and then do whatever coding I have, I have to do, and then walk my dog. Pretty much, that's all I do every day. Walk my dog and be on Zoom. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of Zoom for everyone here. JG, anything?
Yeah, my day is usually pretty much the same every day. I wake up like early and I start working. Our meetings for me it's usually almost at lunchtime, so I usually have meetings and then I go straight to have lunch. And then I basically just like code until, I don't know, about dinner time, and that's when I'm done. I don't usually have that much meetings in the afternoon, only when there's something different going on, but usually I can go for a few days without any other call other than that thing, which is great. A lot
Yeah.
of time to do my stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that's it for the team that's here. Well, except for Tally's part-time still, but
Yeah, I'm a lowly intern, but I do
What-
some good stuff.
well, finals are coming up, right? And then
Yeah, finals, and then I'm taking one class during the J term, but that'll free up my schedule a little bit. So my schedule will be a little bit different. But yes, I am a college student as well.
doing
So,
some more hackathon stuff then.
yeah, definitely.
Cool.
And for those that are interested, I think the final deadline to submit is January 17th. I was just looking at it.
For what, the encode?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Tally.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So next person, or next question. Will you implement Tellor 2 on any chains besides Matic? So the way that Tellor 2 works is the Tellor optimistic oracle. It does fall back to the main chain Ethereum. The only thing, so we can implement Tellor 2 on any other chain as long as it has the ability to read data from main chain Ethereum. So you have to have that ability to fall back from, to actually fall back to the main Tellor system, or else it won't work. There are kind of other systems. So if we had talked about running, like, we had talked about several other structures for different chains that couldn't necessarily read data from Ethereum, but it makes it just a whole lot more complicated. So we've been really hesitant to kind of do that. Any other chain that we support, if we were to launch, say, like a whole nother, say, mining network or something like that, that's a whole lot of work and maintenance and code development for us. And we're a relatively small team, so in order to do it, we'd really need to see some demand or some return. It's not like we can just say we're going on every other chain. It's more of a, we don't really just say it without actually building it. So, but yeah, expect to see Tellor 2 on other chains in the future. Do you make Tellor Germany and plan NFTs? I don't know. We don't really have anything in German, but no plans for NFTs at the moment. Have you talked with Compound recently? Really think you guys could help them out with your knowledge of what constitutes a good price, etc. So if you saw, we've been kind of talking with Compound. So for those that don't know what happened, Compound had an issue with, there was a whole bunch of liquidations. This was on Thanksgiving Day, which is sort of a different issue, but it wasn't. What happened is they use Coinbase's Oracle, and they use a combination of Coinbase's Oracle and Uniswap's Oracle to check the, I think it was the ETH DAI price that was thrown off, or just the DAI price, I don't know. And what happened is somebody threw the price. So it got reported that DAI was not $1, it was $1.30. And this is a big problem because DAI is supposed to be stable at $1, but it wasn't $1.30. Which comes into kind of the problem, because, like, was it $1.30 or wasn't it? What happened is a big whale came up and pushed up the price of DAI. So the price of DAI was actually $1.30 at that time on Coinbase. Like, if you wanted to go buy it, the market moved. It was really a classic kind of market manipulation case. If you look, the CFTC has and other regulators. This is the reason that this doesn't happen in kind of the traditional world is, well, the short answer is it does happen. It's just illegal. You just know who everyone is, and you go and you put those people in jail. If there's a derivatives contract, like a futures contract, and somebody tries to manipulate the underlying spot price to mess with the settlement price, then somebody's probably gonna get fined really heavily. But this didn't happen. So it wasn't necessarily an Oracle problem per se, because Coinbase signed the price and put it on Compound. Like that part worked fine. Getting the price from off chain on chain was a success. It was just kind of the wrong price. It was, you know, what they needed to probably do is, and as they've kind of recognized, you either need to, one way to do it would be you sort of medianize a bunch of exchanges. So you make it more expensive to throw the price. So you would use Binance and Coinbase and Bitfinex and Kraken and all of the other ones. And then theoretically, it's going to be harder to, or more expensive to throw the price. The other thing you can do is use more of a time-weighted average. So you could use like, what's the average over the past day? Then it's sort of, you know, infeasible to move the price of DAI for an entire day. The problem there is you sort of lose kind of the sensitivity. So like if there is a big price in the price of DAI, then there's a problem because like your system won't really update in that quickly, which may or may not be a bad thing. You know, it just depends on what you're building. But yeah, so long story short, they had a hack. It was more of a settlement price issue. You know, we've been kind of discussing with them on their Discord, and we've had some chats with them internally to do more stuff with reaching on-chain prices. So yes, we're reaching out. Next question: what new types of data are users asking for? Mainly crypto prices. We did have somebody reach out and they asked for the VIX settlement price, which is a volatility index. So we did have add that one. You know, I think we're trying to sort of tell people. So, you know, we're trying to make our data pieces more robust in general. So, you know, moving the ability to sort of support on-chain, off-chain prices, and the ability to have more TWAPs, more VWAPs. This is stuff that we want to sort of push. It's, you know, most users, as far as for oracles, we're trying to get people to think outside the box as far as which type of data they want, but most people still just want the basic ETH price, Bitcoin price, you know, price of their own token. Those are really the basic ones that people are requesting, and that's fine. Next one, this one can be for Ryan as well. Have you noticed an increase in projects reaching out to you? You know, I know from my perspective, being here for a year, you know, with Tellor since beginning of 2019 is when we officially started Tellor. Yes, definitely so. You know, this time last year, like we were just talking about it. We, you know, Brenda, Mike, and I went to DevCon at the beginning. Was that October of last year or something? And we were so new, and you know, nobody had heard of us. Nobody was reaching out to us. Like every single thing was a cold call. Like it was a lot. But now people throw us around. You know, like you'll just hear our name. You'll see our name in articles. You know, people who we didn't reach out to us and are like, I wonder if this could work I wonder if Tellor could work for my project. And you know, a lot of times it's a no, but a lot of times it's yeah, maybe it could, and let's explore farther how it works. So you know, it's really exciting. You know, like whenever, you know, multiple times a week somebody reaches out to me and is like, hey, I'm doing this small project, could I use the price from Tellor, or would this even make sense? And you know, we're always really straightforward with them about whether or not it would make sense, how they could structure it to be better, and you know, we just want to see good projects in the space. So it's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that too, just with everything that's been going on, I feel like the discussion about oracles is becoming more necessary, and we've always been in the mix of that bag of oracles to choose from. So
yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's yeah. There's oracles will eventually be the topic. So we think, you know, with enough hacks, it's similar to like the centralized exchange versus decentralized exchange. It's centralized exchanges are still a thing, and they kind of always will be a thing, but you want people to move to dexes, and they're getting better and people are using them way more. So eventually just like dexes and their time, oracles will come along. Somebody next asked, will Tellor add non-numerical data? Eventually, yeah. So I know that's probably an awful answer for you, but yes, we would love to. It's just whenever it comes to oracles in general, you know, oracles are these things that basically a layer one chain has a consensus mechanism, and it has a very specific set of like opcodes and fields on which the consensus mechanism deals with. So we can tell you whether or not these things, you know, in Bitcoin, who sent what to who. That's kind of it, with like a little bit of messaging data. Everything else that you want to sort of come to agreement on the chain about off-chain events has to be handled by an oracle. So it's this, or an oracle is this like really broad term that can handle any off-chain data or any event. And the way that you make Tellor faster and sort of more secure is you sort of limit the subset about what we're talking about. You know, if we're only talking about numerical data that we can medianize, and we're only talking about these specific APIs that we have constant requests of, so everybody sort of knows what the IDs are. Whenever you have more generalized oracles, like similar to like if you look at like a Claros type system, which is like a you know, like it's like a court. So basically, you ask it a very vague question, and then they have people who weigh in on the specific answers. It takes weeks, you know, to because the participants have to really think about, you know, you have to look into it. Each case is really different. But with Tellor, if you limit it to certain very specific numerical data, if one person reports a price that's very different from all of the other ones in the history, and the other 5 in the thing, then it's sort of really easy to tell whether or not it's true or false, and whether or not to use it, so we can make the system faster. So we want to add non-numerical data, but it's not necessarily a priority at this moment. Next question is Nick Deegan Spartan. I'm gonna have to, yeah, I think that's probably Mike. Mike's kind of the carnivore, and he fits more of that Chad lifestyle than me, so he's my guess. Next one, how do you approach devs and initiate a dialogue? Ryan, how do you approach devs, or even JG? You know, like I mean, I can give you guys my answer, but I'm curious to hear what you guys would say. Like,
Sorry, in what context?
how do you approach devs and initiate a dialogue? I'm guessing to get people to build on Tellor.
Oh, yeah, I mean, typically through Discord, and Telegram. Surprisingly, yeah, devs are like, as opposed to more the business strategy people, devs kind of seem to have a little bit more context for the oracle. So either, yeah, just finding them on Twitter or Discord through their websites, finding out, you know, who the role players are, and going straight to the devs.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's similar. Like most people who are actually building are really responsive. They just like people who care about what they're building and are trying to. And if you're honestly trying to help somebody with what they're building,
Right.
they're usually really open to it. And you know, we're kind of we're not trying to just, you know, shoehorn a solution into a product that it won't work for. We want to find the actual use cases. So you know, I think as long as we sort of have that vibe about us, it's really easy to initiate conversations with devs. And yeah, just you know, like everyone likes to think it's really big, the space, but it's not. Every like almost all of the biggest projects on Ethereum, like you can just go on Twitter and DM the founders and they'll respond like instantly. You know, if it's a good question. And same with like, you know, like we were Crossy, for instance, had a question on some Geth piece, and I think he posted it in like or wasn't it a Solidity thing, JG? And then yeah, like the guy who wrote Solidity responded to him like in an hour. Like it's just such a tiny space. So people are usually responsive as long as you're not trying to sell them some snake oil. Okay, so next question, could you layer extra services on top of Tellor's core service? Yes, you could. It always comes down to what is kind of Tellor's mission, how do things get back? So, you know, there's like one piece that like Chainlink does, and you know, you can kind of brand yourself more as like this middleware piece, to say like, okay, well, not only do we provide this off-chain data, you know, like we could also automate your smart contracts for you and run centralized. We could run centralized oracles for your private chains as well, and do things like that, and just for money. The problem would be it takes a lot of, like, maybe if we saw a really big demand there, we could do something like that. I think in a lot of ways, though, it takes away from our core mission of building Tellor out as a community. You know, let's be honest, like it really indirectly helps the token if we're getting paid on the side to be consultants, you know, adding automation services. Like it sort of does, but it sort of muddies the water between what we actually provide. So, you know, I think there are some things that we could do to layer services on top for people using Tellor. But it's one of those things that you know, especially when it comes to actually using Tellor, you could automate a lot of the pieces using Tellor. You know, like automate a lot of the disputers, the checkers, you know, making, like, we could add tips for them. We can request their data, making sure that their stuff is all fact checked and super robust. But then it's sort of less decentralized if you do that and charge for it. You know, this is like similar to like on Ethereum. You can to make it easier for developers, you can run like the node for everybody. You can launch Infura. You can launch all of these side services that help people build on Ethereum. But the problem is that the more that the core team of Ethereum runs, or say consensus, then the less decentralized the whole space is. So it's like, maybe like it's a really good thing early on if you help people out, but you want to make sure that you're not building like an Infura chain. So yes, I don't know if that answered the question properly. Okay, so some easy questions to wrap things up. Why has network difficulty decreased substantially over the past month? I think we talked about that. Fixing it. Ooh, and this one, shout out to Ryan. Twitter updates have gotten more frequent. Well done. So yeah, I think it's good. And last question, Tellor method versus DIA API 3. Competitors, who's safer? So those that don't know, DIA and API 3, they create, how do they brand themselves? It's transparent data access, or basically they use kind of like web signatures to make sure to trustlessly return an API call. So you have an API call, and then they can prove to you that it was trustworthy, and they get you back the results of an API call in your smart contract in a trustless way. It's cool. I think there's just some big issues with it. You know, it's sort of a different problem between what kind of a complete Oracle package is. I think, as we saw with the compound Oracle fiasco, if you were just returning the price of the Coinbase API, not to mention the fact that Coinbase themselves could always just turn off their API or report a bad price, you have the problem of the price was still thrown on one exchange. So, you know, there's some cool things you can do with it, but it's sort of this, it's like an intermediate step from being a complete Oracle. Like if you're just using the Coinbase API as your Oracle, it's not good. You know, what they would probably need to do would be build in a median of exchanges for each price, and then you would have to have some sort of formal methods for deciding if one of the exchanges is an outlier and throwing it, and then you'd have to add that community element to it, which is what Tellor does. So they could be competitors, I think, in the long run, but for now they're just working on some pieces. And yeah, I mean, we haven't heard anybody say they're going to use API 3 or DIA over Tellor or really that much. So I would say they're not quite competitors yet. More so, right now we look at really everyone as kind of colleagues, since our biggest competitors are, as we saw with Compound, the biggest competitor is them using a centralized Oracle from Coinbase, and trying to tell them that that's a bad idea. So the more, if DIA and API 3 and even Chainlink, if everybody's ringing the bell on don't use centralized oracles, these are awful, then the whole space sort of moves forward, and we can all do well together. So okay, I think that's it for the questions. Yeah, so oracles, I think I answered your question there. If not, let me know. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. We'll have a fun time, and yeah, we'll have another call next week, and hopefully we'll have even more fun news to talk about. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.